The case that began with a broken tail light. It was a quiet Friday night in late September. The kind of small-town evening where the streets of Hollow Creek, Missouri, looked almost cinematic, rain-slicked pavement reflecting the dim yellow glow of streetlights, storefronts closed, and not a sound except for the hum of passing cars. At 9:47 p.m., Officer Colton Briggs, a 6-year veteran of the Hollow Creek Police Department, pulled behind a silver Honda Accord at a red light. Nothing unusual until the brake lights came on. The left tail light flickered weakly, then died completely. "Simple fix," he muttered, reaching for his lights. When he hit the siren, the Honda didn't stop. Not right away. Instead, it kept rolling slowly down Pine Street, hazard lights blinking as if the driver was searching for somewhere safe to pull over. But the seconds stretched into minutes. Then, without warning, the car jerked right and veered into an empty parking lot behind an abandoned diner. Briggs stepped out, rain tapping on his uniform, hand resting on his holster. "Evening, sir. License and registration?" The driver rolled down his window halfway. A man in his early 30s, pale, exhausted, eyes hollow like he hadn't slept in days. He spoke quietly. Yeah, give me a second." Briggs noticed his hands trembling. Not in a drunk way, more like fear. "Everything all right?" Briggs asked. The man nodded quickly. "It's just been a long drive." The engine was still running. Briggs caught a faint smell, chemical, sharp, almost metallic. His instincts kicked in. "Mind stepping out for me?" That's when the man's expression changed. Calm one second, terrified the next. "No," he whispered. "You don't want to do that." Briggs frowned. "Excuse me?" The man's eyes darted toward the rearview mirror, not at Briggs, but at something behind him. Briggs turned. Nothing. Just the rain and his cruiser's flashing lights painting the street in red and blue. When he looked back, the man was gone. The door was open, the car empty. Briggs drew his weapon, scanning the lot. There was nowhere to run. No open buildings, no cover. Just the steady hiss of rainfall. He radioed in. "Dispatch, I've got a 10 to 29. Driver fled on foot. Abandoned vehicle. Requesting backup." Within minutes, another unit arrived. They searched the lot, then the nearby alley, then the diner, all empty. It was as if the man had vanished into thin air. But when they searched the Honda, things got stranger. The trunk was spotless, unnaturally so. No spare tire, no tools, no bags. But under the carpet lining, wedged inside a cut piece of metal, Briggs found something wrapped in cloth. He pulled it out slowly, a thick envelope sealed tight with duct tape. Inside were 7 Polaroid photographs. Each one showed the same small house. A white porch, a maple tree in front, a swing hanging from a branch. But as Briggs flipped through them, the details changed. In the first few, the house looked normal. Lights on. Curtains open. By the 5th photo, the lights were off. By the 7th, the porch light was smashed. And someone was standing in the yard. A shadowy figure facing the camera, blurry, unrecognizable. But the date printed on the bottom corner caught his attention, September 29th. Tonight's date. Briggs and his partner stared at the photos. "Maybe it's his place," the partner said. Briggs shook his head. "No. License says he's from out of state. Oregon." They ran the plate, nothing. The car was registered to a rental company in Tulsa, reported missing 3 days earlier. The driver's ID? The name Ethan Miles. By midnight, the car was towed, and detectives were called in. That's when Detective Lena Ward, lead investigator on the case, arrived. She'd been with Hollow Creek PD long enough to know that routine stops rarely stayed routine. Ward examined the photos under a lamp in the precinct. "This house," she murmured. "I've seen it before." Her partner leaned over. "Where?" She didn't answer right away. She flipped one photo over, handwritten coordinates in pencil, 37.2950 minus 91.7724. When she entered them into her phone, the screen lit up with a map. The address was just 15 minutes away, on the outskirts of town. An abandoned property. One that had been vacant for nearly 6 years after a family disappeared inside it. Ward looked at Briggs. "We're going out there." They arrived at 1:07 a.m. The house was exactly as pictured. Same porch swing. Same broken light. The air felt heavy still. Even the rain had stopped. They moved slowly, flashlights cutting through the dark. Briggs whispered, "You think he took these tonight?" Ward nodded. "Has to be. Same angle. Same lens distortion. He was here." When they reached the porch, they noticed the door slightly ajar. The hinges creaked softly as it moved in the wind. Inside, the house smelled of dust and rot, old wallpaper peeling, floorboards warped. On the living room wall, written in what looked like charcoal, were 4 words. "Don't let her in." Briggs stepped closer. "Her." Before Ward could answer, her flashlight flickered, then died completely. The house went dark. For a moment, the only sound was breathing, slow, uneven, not theirs. Then a voice from the hallway. Familiar. "You shouldn't have followed me." They turned toward it, and in the faint spill of moonlight, saw the missing driver standing at the end of the hall. Still drenched from the rain. Still trembling. And in his hand, something metallic glinted. Briggs raised his weapon. "Drop it?" But the man only smiled faintly. "She's awake now," he said quietly. "And she knows you're here." Ward's heart pounded. "Who's she?" He stepped backward into the shadows, his voice echoing. "The woman in the pictures." Then he was gone. The front door slammed shut on its own. The sound echoed through the empty house like a warning. Ward and Briggs stood frozen, flashlights flickering back on just long enough to reveal what was now written beneath the original message on the wall, fresh, black ink still dripping. "You were supposed to leave her alone." The night air was still, heavy with the scent of rain and wood rot. The last thing Detective Lena Ward remembered before the flashlight cut out was the driver's pale face in the hallway and his final words, "She's awake now." Now the silence pressed in on her like a physical weight. Briggs was somewhere behind her, pacing, whispering into his radio, "Dispatch, we've got a situation at 119 Maple. Possible suspect on site." Static. Then nothing. Ward's radio hissed, then clicked off completely. She tapped it twice. No response. The house had gone dark, but the faint hum in the air, a low electrical buzz, told her the power wasn't entirely gone. Briggs's flashlight flicked back on with a sputter. The beam landed on the wall where the words had been scrawled, "Don't let her in." Only now, something else was written beneath it. "She's already here." Ward froze. "Briggs, did you—" "No," he said quickly. "That wasn't there before." The handwriting looked fresh, the strokes thick and wet, dripping down the old plaster. Then came the noise. A soft creak from upstairs. Both flashlights turned toward the staircase. Ward's pulse raced. "He's up there." But Briggs wasn't so sure. Then why's his car still outside? They moved up the stairs one at a time, floorboards groaning underfoot. The smell of mold and rust grew stronger. At the top was a long hallway lined with doors. Every one of them shut. Briggs gestured to the left. "You take the first. I'll clear the rest." Ward opened the nearest door. The room was empty, except for a dusty twin bed, a broken mirror, and a pile of papers scattered across the floor. She crouched down, picking one up. It was a missing person flyer. Her blood ran cold. There were dozens of them, all different names, all from different towns, dating back years. In the corner of the room was a corkboard pinned with photos. Victims. Men, women, children. Most smiling, some not. And at the center, one face circled in red. Detective Lena Ward. Her breath caught. Before she could react, Briggs shouted from the hall. "Lena, you need to see this." She rushed out, heart pounding. He was standing in the last doorway, flashlight shaking. Inside was what looked like an office. Old computer monitors stacked on a desk, wires coiling across the floor. The screens were on, flickering faintly. Every monitor showed live footage of different rooms in the house, including the one they were standing in. Ward stepped closer. "He's been watching us." Briggs swallowed hard. "No, not just us. Look." One of the screens showed the front porch, a woman standing in the rain, facing the camera. Blonde hair. Thin frame. eyes wide. "That's her," Ward whispered. "The one from the photographs." But the timestamp in the corner of the screen wasn't from tonight. It was from 6 years ago. Briggs turned. "The missing family." Before he could finish, one of the screens flashed white, then switched to a new feed. A live one. The camera showed the downstairs living room. 2 police flashlights lying on the floor. And behind them, someone walking through the hallway, toward the stairs. Briggs cursed, running to the landing. But the staircase was empty. Then the sound returned, that same soft rhythmic creak, like slow footsteps on wood. Except it wasn't coming from above anymore. It was coming from behind the walls. Ward moved closer to the sound, pressing her ear to the cracked plaster. Faint whispers drifted through. She could barely make out the words. "Let me out." She stepped back. "There's a crawl space." Together, they ripped the paneling loose. Behind it was a narrow gap, too small for anyone to live in, but lined with old wires, tiny cameras, and something else. A set of children's drawings, each one depicting the same figure, a woman with no face, drawn over and over again. Briggs muttered, "This guy's completely deranged." Ward didn't respond. Her eyes locked on the far corner of the crawlspace, a small wooden box with a rusted latch. She reached for it carefully. Inside was a stack of cassette tapes, each labeled with a date. The most recent one was marked September 29th. Tonight. She clicked open her body cam case. It had a small built-in player. The tape hissed to life. At first, just static. Then a voice. "Detective Ward, you weren't supposed to find this house." Her stomach dropped. The voice was calm, composed, and familiar. It was the driver. He continued, "You think this started tonight. It didn't. You've been in this case longer than you realize." Briggs's face paled. "How the hell does he know your name?" Ward didn't answer. Her throat went dry. The voice went on, "Check the date on the first missing person flyer. That's when I chose you." She flipped through the pile she'd seen earlier, hands shaking. The earliest flyer was from September 29th, 6 years ago. Her name printed in small letters at the bottom, not as a detective, but as a witness. She whispered, "No, that's not possible." Briggs frowned. "What is it?" Before she could reply, the monitors behind them flickered again, showing the live feed from outside. Their patrol car's trunk had been opened, and inside it, a second wooden box, identical to the one in Ward's hand. A new text appeared across one of the monitors, typed in white font. "You shouldn't have come back." Then, from downstairs, the front door creaked open. Rain poured in. Footsteps echoed up the stairs, slow, deliberate, heavy. Briggs raised his weapon. "Ward, we need to move." But Ward stood frozen, staring at the screen, her own face now appearing on one of the monitors, filmed from behind. The live feed zoomed closer. Someone was in the room with them. For a long moment, the house was silent again. The kind of silence that makes your heartbeat feel too loud. Ward didn't move. Her reflection stared back at her from the flickering monitor, frozen, wide-eyed, a mirror image of the fear she couldn't show. The realization hit her like a wave. Someone was recording them in real time, from inside this very room. Briggs whispered, "Look." The flashlight beam shook slightly as he pointed it toward the far corner of the office. There, hidden behind an old filing cabinet, was a small black lens glinting faintly under the light. A camera. Ward exhaled slowly. "He's been watching us since we walked in." She stepped forward, ripped the camera from the wall, and smashed it against the floor. The screen on the desk instantly went black. For a moment, it felt like they'd severed the connection, until another monitor flickered back on. The live feed showed them again. Same angle, same moment, except, in the footage, there was something else behind them. A shape. Human. Standing in the doorway. Briggs spun around, gun raised, but there was no one there. Only the open door, the hallway stretching into darkness. He turned back. The monitor now showed an empty room. Ward's voice was barely above a whisper. "He's playing with us." The rain outside intensified, hammering against the roof. The power flickered, and the monitors began cycling rapidly through different camera feeds: exterior, basement, attic, hallway, until they stopped on a new image. A car parked outside. Briggs's car. Inside the car, something was glowing faintly from the dashboard. Ward squinted at the screen. "Is that?" Briggs swore. "It's the dashcam." He pulled his radio again. "Dispatch, we need units at 119 Maple, now." Nothing but static. Ward stared at the monitor as the dashcam feed zoomed in, as if someone outside was controlling it. Then they saw it. In the driver's seat of Briggs's cruiser, someone was sitting perfectly still, hands on the wheel. It wasn't Briggs. It was the man from the traffic stop. His pale face turned toward the dashcam, lips barely moving. The sound kicked in a few seconds later through the house's speakers, warped and echoing. "You shouldn't have come back here, Detective Ward. You didn't fix the mistake." Briggs whispered, "What mistake?" The voice continued, flat and calm. "You remember the accident 6 years ago? The one you left off the record? The one that killed her?" Ward's entire body went cold. No, that case was closed." Briggs looked at her sharply. "Lena, what is he talking about?" She didn't answer. Her hands trembled slightly. The house lights snapped off completely. Every monitor went dead. And then, from the darkness downstairs, came a single sound, the slam of the front door. Briggs aimed his light toward the stairwell. "We're leaving. Now." They moved cautiously down the steps, beams sweeping across the walls. The words scrawled in charcoal were gone. The floor was wet with fresh, muddy footprints, leading straight to the living room. At the center of the floor was a small black box, identical to the ones they'd already found. Ward hesitated, then knelt. The label on the lid read only one word: truth. Inside was a single Polaroid. Subscribe for more real-life mysteries, unsolved crime cases, and true crime documentaries every week.